back with the Brother 1034DX serger, and I wanted to show you the thing I like to do best with the serger. This is probably the only thing I actually enjoy doing on the serger, and that is making a ruffle. A ruffle to go at the hem of a dress or pants or around a pillow, curtains. There are so many different uses for this, and the serger does this better than anything else. You can do it on a regular machine. You just gather your ruffle and then apply it to the edge. But the serger, with one pass, ruffles the fabric, attaches the fabric, and finishes the edge. This is one pass. So, let's have a look at how this works on the serger. First, you need your gathering foot. And it looks like this. And it has a little LG on it right there. It'll say LG. So we need to take off the foot that's on here and put this on, and it's very simple. Okay, so now we have a side view of the machine, and I do have my machine on because the light helps so you can see, but I strongly suggest that you do this with your machine off. So anyway, here's the side view. We're going to take this foot off. Go to the lever on the right and lift that foot up. Now, there's a little black button right here. We're just going to push that and the foot falls right off. Now, you may have to lift the foot up just a little bit using that lever, press it all the way to the back, but it'll come right off. Now, let's put the new foot on. This little bar right here needs to go into this little notch at the end of this foot. So we're going to slip it up under there. Now you may have to use your lever to raise that foot just a little, and we're going to get it right up under there, and then let your lever down so that it's right on top. And once you get it in the right position, press down and you'll hear a click. And then you can raise your foot up to check to be sure it's on there good. And that's all there is to changing the foot. Now that we have the foot on, let's just talk about it for a second. You see this channel that runs right here? There's like a thin metal plate on the bottom, and then there's a thicker metal plate here, and there's an opening. You're going to slide fabric in between there, because when you do a gather, you're going to have two pieces of fabric, the flat piece and the ruffle piece. So what you're going to do here, the piece you want to ruffle is going to go on the bottom. It's going to go totally underneath the whole foot here. The flat piece, the piece that won't be ruffled, will go in between in that channel there, okay? And you'll have these edges over here even. So the even edges will be right here. Now that's where your gather's going to be. So always check your fabric and be sure that when it's sewn, it's going to be right side up. I can't tell you how many times I've opened it up and I had my fabric on upside down for some reason. But anyway, so the two pieces of fabric are going to go separate directions. One of them is going to go totally under the foot. One of them is going to go in between. Now let's talk about the machine settings. First of all, this knob right here, which is your stitch width, you're going to put that on 5. That's usually what it stays on anyway. Okay, over here on the side, this knob right here is your stitch length. You should start off with it on 3. You can adjust it between the 2 and the 4. This is going to determine whether you have little teeny tiny pleats or whether you have big fat plump pleats. So put it on the 3 to start with, and if that's too fat, you can go down to make them smaller. If that's not big enough, you can go up. Now there's not going to be a huge bit of difference. This is the important knob. This is your differential feed. Differential feed means it feeds differently. Over here, underneath this foot, there are 2 sets of feed dogs. There's a set in the back and there's a set in the front, and they work separately. So if you have the differential feed set to 1, both of those sets of feed dogs are pushing the same amount of fabric through at the same time. Now if you go to 2, the front feed dog is pushing twice as much fabric as the back feed dog. That's why it gets bunched up in there and then it sews over it, and that's what makes your ruffle. So you can adjust this to make a ruffle anywhere between the 1 and the 2, depending on how, full you want your ruffles. I'm going to go with a 2 for right now, but you can go back and forth. Now, if you go less than 1, you're not going to get a ruffle. It's not going to push more fabric. You use that when your knits are stretching. So for our ruffle, let's leave it on 2. Now that means it's going to push twice as much fabric under the front part as it does the back part. Okay, we have our foot on. We have our machine set to ruffle. So let's insert some fabric now and give it a whirl. This is what I want ruffled, so it's going to go underneath the whole foot. I'll line that up with the edge of the machine. Then you can put your foot down. Now this would be my flat fabric, and you're going to turn it face down. You want these two fabrics to be right side together, and I'm going to insert it not under the whole foot but in between right here. So it's going to go right there, and I'm going to line up these raw edges as best I can. Now when you get ready to sew, you're going to have to hold your fabrics with 2 different fingers, with 2 different hands, because this bottom fabric is going to feed faster than the top fabric. So if you try to hold them together, it's not going to work. That's what the back looks like, and you flip it over. There you go. If you wanted to, press this down and go run a line of top stitching right along the edge there. How about that for a trick? Now that we see how cute the basic settings are, let's just play with the settings and see what kind of a difference it makes. All of my fabrics, I used a 16-inch strip for the ruffle and an 8-inch strip for the flat fabric. So you can see I probably have 2.5 inches of extra. So it's not an exact science. You might have to, fudge it a little. But let's take the same length fabrics and try these different settings. Now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move this length, that's this knob right here, all the way to 2, and that's the only change I'm going to make. So let me run the same size strips and let's see what a difference it makes. See, much less full on the gathers. Now let's run one. I'm going to move that same knob. We just did that on the 2. I'm going to turn it all the way. Now the last number there is 4, but it will go a little bit past the 4. So I'm going to run that all the way up, and now let's see what it does. I think that's even fuller. Yeah, they're even poofier than the first one. It's a little bit hard to tell on the camera. I'll press these out and we'll look at them all side by side. But yeah, these are it's a little more poof to it. And I could tell it was really drawing that fabric, that ruffly fabric, up a whole lot faster than when it was set in the middle. Now, for the last try, I'm going to move this dial, the dial we've been playing with. I'm going to move it back to the 3. And I'm going to change this to about a little bit less than midway in between the 2 and the 1. That should just give you a real easy ruffle. So let's see what that does. Yeah, that's just a really light ruffle there. So, like I said, let me get these pressed flat and we'll compare the difference, and then let's look at what it does on knits. Here's our samples. So let's take a look at what we had. This number 1 was with my stitch length at 3 and differential feed was set at 2. That means the front feed dog was feeding in twice as much fabric as the rear feed dog was pulling out. So that's the ruffle you got here. Number 2, we set the stitch length at 2, so it was a much tinier stitch, but the differential was still the same. But you can see you got a really much more delicate ruffle. Number 3, I changed the stitch length to 4, so this was an even longer stitch. And like I said, I used all the same size fabrics, so you can look at the leftover tail and kind of judge how much fabric was ruffled. So this gave you a fluffier ruffle. Now this one, I took the differential feed and I changed it to just a little bit less than 1.5. And you can see there's hardly any ruffle at all. That differential feed is what makes it ruffle, you know, because it's shoving more fabric under there than what the back ones are pulling out. So now let's get a piece of knit and let's see what this does on knits. First, let's try a knit to knit. Let me get this lined up here. Okay, I've got the green on the bottom, so that's going to be what ruffles. So let me get that in here first, underneath the whole foot, and set the foot down. Now I have a print that will be the flat. And y'all, I have never tried this before, so we're just going to see what happens. So look at there. How cute is that? That worked out well. So the moral of the serger story for today is don't be afraid to play with it. No guts, no glory. It's really cool. I love doing ruffles on my serger. Curtain ruffles, pillow ruffles. There's just a lot of places you can put a little bit of a ruffle. And they look so nice when they come out of the serger. And they're already finished. And you, like I said, you can press them under and then, or press them flat and then run a row of top stitching across there to hold that serged edge up. And they are so much fun. So let me know what you would want to put ruffles on. What do you think? Have you tried it yet? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye.